What's up, everybody? Welcome to the lab. At least I hope you can hear me. I think you can. You probably can. All right. Let's see. Bam. There it is. What's happening, everybody? 114, really? There's no way. I was going to say, there's no way I'm 14 minutes late. I'm usually a little late, but not this time. Sound is good. All right. That's wonderful. Let me say hi to the people coming in right now. Let's see. Good to see you, Mary. Rusty Shackleford in the house. Excuse me. Ginger, good to see you. Good to see you. Nice. Hello. Good to see you. Tilted Halo Detective. I like that name. It's good. Yeah. Welcome. I'm welcome to your screen. Thank you. Good to be here. Good to be here on your screen. All right. So let me take this starting shortly thing off there. I got a little bit worked over yesterday. People were a little pissed off at me. I think we got off to like a bad start. You know, I mean, that happens from time to time. It's like, dude, I'm sorry. I apologize, but sometimes I'm snarky, sometimes I'm sarcastic. I get it. Some people are like, well, this is a serious case. It is a very serious case. I get it. I understand. But this is just how I am. And you know, I'm never gonna change. Just like the guy that was here yesterday that said that he was a felon and that he wasn't gonna change. I'm not a felon, but I'm not changing. So yeah, the chat was fine. It wasn't that big of a deal. Remember the forensic artist. What's up, Joby? What's happening? Yeah, well, you know, part of it is, you know, I got to give commentary. Like we watch. I kind of try to wrap everything up into one place. You know, I know a lot of you during the day watch a lot of this stuff, and so I try to encompass all of, you know, the information from the day, and at the same time I try, sometimes fail, to be entertaining, and it's not that easy. There's a lot of really boring like people, and I think sometimes I'm one of them, but I don't want to be. So I apologize about that. Now, let me stop this crap real quick. Eric, good to see you, Eric. All right, Golden, good to see you. Good to see you. Today you watched nothing about it. Well, you're going to get a one-stop shop here. Lions and Tigers. Well, here's the one-stop shop. All right, guys. So, let's see. So today, and I didn't catch all of the interview room, but I caught some of it. I caught the part where Chris did the fat bastard impression. I don't know if anybody caught that. That was my favorite. and then I also where he made fun of Dr. Gary at the end, called him I don't remember what I don't exactly remember what he called him, but it was pretty funny. That's for sure. Snark is good for the digestion. Yeah, well, I gotta let me just read this real. I'll read it to you. And I kind of felt bad about it, but I didn't think I was. I didn't think I was that bad, was I? I mean, maybe I was. We'll find out. I'll read this to you, and then we'll get going. Josh, maybe it would have been better if you didn't do this show tonight. I mean, you are being negative and poking every person on your clips. I don't know if I did that, but I'm a 73-year-old mom and grandma, and I'm so concerned for Nancy and the whole Guthrie family. But your attitude, I and disgust towards these reporters is pretty unfair. I love when Entin is reporting. He's a hard worker and reports pretty honestly all the time. I watch you and Chris, and I just turned yours off because I felt a sense of negativity on your part, and I want to keep my focus on hope and not tearing people down. All right, well, jeez. Stuart Smalley, yeah, I saw that. That was funny. So anyway, I didn't think that I did that, but I hope I didn't. I don't think Chris has said that. No, I don't think so, but I don't think Chris has said that. But let's kick it off here with the biggest news of the day, and then we'll get into yeah, I'm sure people are getting frustrated with the case. I mean, I guess I could, but I sort of live. I wasn't that bad. Oh, huh. Dude, quit worrying about what some. Okay, well, not gonna read that, but thank you, appreciate it. I don't know. I don't know if they'll tell us or not, but let's just dive in because there's a few things that we gotta. There's quite a bit to discuss, to be honest.
We're bringing in our panel at this time to discuss this. We have Jennifer Koffendorfer, Mark Reichel on standby here. And this is happening in real time. This was just posted literally moments ago as we're coming on the air. Savannah Guthrie saying roughly, I wanted to come on, and it's been 2 weeks since our mom was taken, and I just wanted to come on and say, we still have hope. And we still believe, and I wanted to say to whoever has her or knows where she is, that it's never too late and you're not lost or alone. And it's never too late to do the right thing. And we are here. We believe, and we believe in the essential goodness of every human being. It is never too late. We actually have it ready to air right now. Let's take a look in her own words. Oh, yes. This. We have Jennifer Koffendorfer.
Jeez. Yes, and Savannah posted a new plea to whoever's responsible or has her mother, and you can tell that it is physically, emotionally, spiritually weighing on her in every way, shape, or form. Yeah, blue hair is welcome here, so.
I wanted to come on, and it's been 2 weeks since our mom was taken, and I just wanted to come on and say that we still have hope, And we still believe. And I wanted to say to whoever has her or knows where she is that it's never too late. And you're not lost or alone. And it is never too late to do the right thing. And we are here. We believe. And we believe in the essential goodness of every human being. And it's never too late.
It is one thing to read the transcripts. It really is another thing to see her. And I'm just struck by the humanity of it. How
You can see in her eyes this, like, the obviously just the redness and the tiredness and the fatigue. Looks like, looks like she's just done nothing but cry. And I mean, that would make sense. I mean, it's just it's a terrible, terrible thing what she is going through.
much she has carried and how hard it has been for this family these last 2 weeks. Jennifer, I want to bring you in first here. What does this video, this specific message, these words tell us about where the investigation stands 2 weeks in, where it stands tonight?
Well, first of all, that's gut-wrenching to hear that and to see and hear the emotion in Savannah's voice and in her face. I think this was well constructed again by the behavioral analysis unit, trying to plead to the humanity of whoever might have her, and then also to send the message to Nancy that, she's waiting. And basically, when I hear a message like that, it's much like what we do when we interview individuals we believe are responsible for a violent crime. We try to tell them, listen, we know you're human, and I can hear that message ringing through here.
Wow. I mean, Mark, what are your thoughts here? I mean, this simple statement sort of reiterated throughout this video that it is never too late to do the right thing, appealing directly to the alleged kidnappers, the apparent abductors. What's going through your mind as we see this video?
Well, I'm following somebody who certainly knows what they're talking about, because I agree exactly with what Jennifer said. One thing I might add from doing this forever is that I think this may not be a lone actor, and Jennifer may know this too. The concept is maybe to peel off, if there's three of them sitting around and they're involved in this, to maybe get one of them, to touch one of them with this amazingly powerful appeal, that one of them may think, you know what, why am I with these other two or this other person? They don't really, it's time to break off. And it may be successful in that manner. That's a thought I would have. I'd be interested in Jennifer's thought.
Thank you for watching. Subscribe below and down.
News Nation, come on. I mean, we gotta fix this. Well, yes. Yes, I think so. I don't know the legit or the legalities of, like they were saying, like if there's 3 people, 4 people, if somebody maybe were inclined to do the right thing, and it's very unlikely that there would be somebody inclined to do that who would do something this heinous, but maybe they, have a change of heart or find God, or I don't know, maybe find a sense of morality. Maybe that person wouldn't spend the rest of their life in prison. And so, but I don't know. I know that this crime carries a life sentence. Kidnapping for ransom in general. Look at Cuomo, dude. Can't handle it. Okay, so let's do. And Entin's is an hour long. God dang. How long is this one? 30? All right, we might not play this whole thing, but once again, I will be stopping it for commentary because that's part of the show. And I get it if some lady was just like hounding me the other day. Why do you keep talking out of the video? Why do you keep talking over the video? And I'm like, well, I mean, I kind of have to. Dude, Cuomo does. I don't know what it is. It's something about that. I think it's the loud abruptness of the Cuomo promo, as I like to call it. It's loud, it's obnoxious, it's repetitive. Maybe that's what the lady was talking about. And shout out to that lady.
For Nancy Guthrie.
It's a jump scare, yeah.
We just got a statement from the FBI related to a glove being tested for DNA they say appears to match the glove of the man on the front steps of the 84-year-old's house around the time she was taken. How big of a deal could this be when it comes to cracking a case that is entering its...
By the way, I was going to say this, and I'm sure it'll be brought up at some point tonight, and I was going to mention this yesterday, but, you know, all this SWAT activity that everybody's been so critical of, and I guess I have as well, Fredo, you know, I think that they're getting these tips and they're getting like, I think they're basically person of interest DNA to run it against. And I know that there's a genealogy DNA lady that talks tonight, and it's fascinating, but I think that that has a lot to do with this. I know that they're using a lot of firepower to do it, but still.
Third week. We're on the case presented by Law and Crime. I'm Chris Stewart. It was 15 days ago that Nancy Guthrie went to her daughter's house for dinner and some games, a typical family night. Then a family member drove her home to her house where she lives alone, not that far away. And then in the early hours of the morning, she was allegedly taken, and we have not seen her since. We don't know who the man is in this video.
We'll watch this. We'll talk about this a little bit, and then we'll get to Entin's podcast and talk about that a little bit too, because it's I listened to just probably the first 20 minutes of it. It's about an hour long. And it was really good.
That was released by the FBI. That masked man armed with a gun, wearing a backpack with gloves on his hands.
Yeah, though.
Now, we just got a statement from the FBI about a glove that was recovered in the search for Nancy Guthrie. Now, I want to read this statement for you first, and then we'll talk a little bit about what it could mean. Quote, "The gloves found approximately 2 miles from the Guthrie residence in a field near the side of the road were packaged up by Pima County Sheriff's deputies and sent overnight on Thursday, February 12th, and they arrived at a private lab in Florida on Friday. That would be February 13th. This is the private lab that the Pima County Sheriff's Department uses in Florida for DNA analysis of evidence they get. And the statement goes on to say the FBI received preliminary results on Saturday, February 14th, and now they're awaiting quality control and official confirmation today. This is Sunday, before putting unknown male profile into CODIS. Now, CODIS is the national database for the FBI. The process typically takes 24 hours from when the Bureau receives DNA. Investigators collected approximately 16 gloves in the various areas near Nancy Guthrie's home. Most of them were searchers' gloves that they discarded in various areas when they searched the vicinity. The one with the DNA profile recovered is different and appears to match the gloves of the subject in the surveillance video. The FBI has and will continue to provide assistance on whatever timeline is provided to us. And
Jess says those gloves are useless unless they have Nancy's DNA on them. Also, not necessarily. If they have DNA that matches the DNA profile that's in the house, then it would not be it wouldn't be useless.
Quote. So there is a lot there. This could potentially be a glimmer of hope in this case. You hear that line. The one with the DNA profile recovered is different and appears to match the gloves of the subject in the surveillance video. That is the line that stood out to us. Now, it's also important to note that the FBI is still labeling the person you see in the video as unknown male. The spokesperson also said that when you look at the video, it appears the person on surveillance on Nancy Guthrie's front porch is wearing nitrile gloves pulled over another pair of gloves. So nitrile gloves, they're like an alternative to latex gloves. They are very common. They could be used for cleaning homes, could be used if someone has some sort of, PPE on. So I think there's important context there as we await these DNA results. But once the FBI gets the official confirmation, they're then going to put the DNA profile into their national database. It's called CODIS, to see if anything comes back. Now, this database, it has DNA profiles from convicted offenders, people who were arrested or detained, people who have had previous run-ins with law enforcement. So if the FBI ends up having the DNA profile of who they believe that masked person is, and look, that is a big if. We don't know what's going to come of this. They could get a match if that person has their DNA in the system already. Now, it's unclear, looking at what the FBI spokesperson said, is there anything about the glove that they found in the field that makes them believe it is related to the Guthrie investigation and it's not just a glove that someone littered on the side of the road? Is by saying it appears to be the same glove, do they mean that that just is the similar style of glove that you see on video? The Pima County Sheriff, when he has been asked about gloves that have been gathered as evidence, he says none of the gloves were found inside of Nancy Guthrie's home or on her property. He also has not said what evidence they have found inside Nancy Guthrie's home. However, he did say that DNA other than Nancy Guthrie's was found inside of her house. It's unclear if that DNA belongs to the masked person that you see outside her home and what specifically the evidence is that had the DNA. But another piece of context here is it could just be a friend of hers, could be someone who she goes to church with, could be someone that she hires to help her around the house. We do know that gardeners, pool cleaners, hired help, they have been asked to provide DNA samples in this investigation. Law enforcement has detained at least 2 people in this case, but no arrests have been made. Some important context on that being provided today. A new report says that law enforcement is, quote, leaning away from calling the man whose home they searched on Friday night as a suspect. The man's home was searched with a federal search warrant, and also law enforcement made a traffic stop at a nearby Culver's fast food restaurant. That man wasn't arrested. It's unclear why law enforcement zeroed in on this home that's about 2 miles from Nancy Guthrie's house. It's also unclear what was it about the vehicle that made them want to pull this person over and talk to them and search their vehicle. But again, when it comes to search warrants, law enforcement had to provide something to this judge for them to sign off on the warrant to carry out this operation. Now, on top of that, NBC News is reporting that investigators are leaning away from Nancy Guthrie's family members, any relatives, as potential suspects in this case. The sheriff has said that nobody's been ruled out officially, though, until a kidnapper is arrested. Now, as local and federal law enforcement continue to wait on these DNA results, they say that they will continue to follow leads in this case, including what that suspect was wearing on the night he was outside of Nancy Guthrie's home, specifically that backpack that looks full. We don't know what's in the backpack, but we do know at this point what law enforcement believe it is: a 25-liter Ozark Trail hiker pack backpack. And the only place you can get it is Walmart. On top of that, Fox News is reporting that the holster you see on the front side of the suspect, it appears to be a cheap one.
I mean, I'm sure you could get it on Amazon too, couldn't you?
It's a Strategy brand hip holster, Fox believes, and it is available at Walmart. You can get it for about $10, and there's 5 Walmart stores that reportedly have them in the Tucson area. This would not be the first time that Walmart, its sales records, and surveillance video played a major role in a high-profile investigation. These are images of quadruple murderer Brian Koberger at a Walmart in Pullman, Washington in 2022. He reportedly made 13 trips between October and December of 2022. He killed those 4 University of Idaho students inside their house on November 13th. Law enforcement was looking at what he bought at Walmart as they were trying to track down where he purchased the K-bar knife that he used in the murders.
Hello.
Now, in the search for Nancy Guthrie, law enforcement is still hoping that they can find her. And a key part of that could be her pacemaker. You might remember the timeline that was given to us by law enforcement. Her device disconnects from her iPhone at 2:28 in the morning. It was also reportedly synced to her Apple Watch. Her iPhone and Apple Watch were found in her home on that morning that she was taken. And now it appears that law enforcement is using some pretty high-tech equipment to try and see if they can pick up a trace of that pacemaker.
I was reading about these sniffers earlier, and apparently they can pick up a whole bunch of stuff like microwaves and anything with like that sort of pulse. I don't know.
Media members have
It's not. It doesn't just specifically sniff out a pacemaker.
noticed a helicopter flying low over Nancy Guthrie's neighborhood. And News Nation is reporting that is because they are using what's called a signal sniffer on a helicopter in hopes it picks up that pacemaker. Now, to use this device, you have to fly low and slow over a particular area. Private investigator Steve Fisher, who often comes on this show, posted some context about this equipment on X, about how it works, because he's used it in multiple searches for missing people. Steve says this device can pick up a range of signals like Wi-Fi, cellular data, radio frequency emissions, and even emissions coming from a pacemaker. He says you do have to fly very low to the ground, and this is not something that you can use to like sweep an entire city. It has to be a defined area. Now, in his experience, the 3 cases where he used it, they did not have success, but that does not mean it could not work in the search for Nancy Guthrie. The FBI has doubled the amount of money it is offering as a reward for information leading to Nancy.
Let me saying the AirPods, but I'm the king of losing AirPods, and the find my phone app on it sucks. It doesn't really work that well, to be honest with you. So if that's the same sort of technology they're using, they ain't finding nothing. I scanned my dog's belly with it one time because I thought he swallowed. I thought that he swallowed my AirPod. Not kidding. It was like an X-ray. I said, lay down. I took my phone and I went, and it was like beeping. It was in his cheek.
Or the person or people who took her from her home. It's now at $100,000. Law enforcement's also received thousands of tips in this case, and a lot of them have come in after the surveillance images were released by FBI Director Kash Patel on social media. And look, you look at those images, it is incredibly compelling. It puts a face to the monster that would be behind taking Nancy Guthrie, a masked monster at this point. But we'll talk in a moment about why releasing those images when the FBI did may have been a mistake in this investigation. Now, as this investigation continues on.
No, Otis has ate one of my AirPods before, and I actually watched him pass it without any issue.
Law enforcement is really leaning on the public to provide them surveillance video. Thursday afternoon, the Pima County Sheriff put out a call to people with home surveillance cameras like a Nest or a Ring that they want video from January 1st through February 2nd of 2026 of a 2-mile radius of this part of town, East Skyline Drive and North Campbell Avenue. And
I think that the U.S. government could probably come up with a better distraction than that.
They say they want anything that.
No, I didn't use it. No, I'm not going to put an ass pod in my ear.
Shows vehicles, traffic, pedestrians, or suspicious activity. Nancy's home is about a 4-mile drive south of that intersection. And they also say they're reaching out to people with cameras on the Neighbors app. So if you're watching this and you get a request on the Neighbors app from someone saying they're law enforcement, it should have a blue check mark so you know it's legit. There's also a link that the sheriff's department's put out on X where you can submit videos as evidence. Now, previously, law enforcement reportedly was looking for video at very specific times, not just the entire month from January to February, but
really quick side note here. One time we had this Dalmatian, his name was Smudge, and he ate my grandpa's sock and he crapped it out whole. And my grandfather, who was alive during the Depression, put the sock in the wash machine, dried it, and then
KVOA says that people in the Catalina
grandma was pissed.
foothills area of Tucson
I swear on everything holy
are asked to turn over any surveillance camera footage they have at very specific times. One is January 11th. That's roughly 22 days before Nancy Guthrie was taken, between 9 p.m. and midnight. Also, they're looking for footage from the morning of January 31st between 9:30 a.m. and 11 a.m. That's because they say there was a suspicious vehicle in the area at around 10 o'clock in the morning. They haven't said what that vehicle may look like, but we do know they went to that Circle K early on in this investigation, one that is near Nancy Guthrie's house, looking for surveillance video related to a vehicle of interest, they said. But, the vehicle part of it may be an example of, from the public's perspective, we don't know. What
do you mean, Russ? Did it still work? Did the sock still work? Yeah, the sock still worked. The AirPod, the AirPod worked too.
As much as maybe we think we know when it comes to this case. Now, when you look here, this is the new missing persons poster that was put out by the FBI once the reward money was doubled to $100,000. If you have any information on Nancy Guthrie, contact the Pima County Sheriff at 520-351-4900. And you can also contact the FBI at 1-800-CALL-FBI or go to tips.fbi.gov. Joining us now to talk more about this case is Dan Bruner, retired FBI special agent. Thank you for taking the time to be with us here on Law and Crime as we continue to follow the search for Nancy Guthrie.
I'm not going to say anything about this, guys. Can you please hit that like button?
Guthrie. So I know that we're kind of parsing through some of the media reports coming out about particular pieces of evidence, specifically some gloves. I believe it was a pair of gloves found roughly 2 miles from Nancy Guthrie's home. How exactly could this factor into the case? How do you figure out whether or not this glove might actually be the person we see in that surveillance video on the front steps?
And that won't be done until those gloves in the video are recovered. So we don't know that the gloves recovered on the side of the road are the ones that that individual wore. The only way that we are going to definitively say that those gloves discovered on the side of the road belong to the individual will be when that individual is captured and his DNA is compared to the DNA that's recovered inside the gloves. Until that time, this is just a clue. It provides us information. They have DNA that they recovered from the interior of the glove. That DNA will be provided to laboratories for analysis and then will be entered into CODIS for comparison to DNA that is currently inside the system, which maintains all DNA. Every individual that is arrested federally, that is taken into custody, not questioned, is taken into custody, receives a DNA swab. That DNA swab is then submitted into this database, which is kept for future references. If that individual had previous interactions with federal authorities, it doesn't matter if it was FBI, DEA, HSI, if he had previous arrest through federal authority, that DNA swab from the glove will be discovered, and then they will find it and we'll be able to get an ID. Again, that still does not definitively say that the individual in the video is the individual that has the gloves. That individual who has coded the DNA that was found on the gloves on the side of the road could easily have just been working that day. And yes, he had been arrested in the past. If he matches the description, then once that clue is provided, okay, we have an individual who matches the physical description and we have the gloves. Where does he reside? All right, that'll give us the probable cause to conduct a search warrant at his residence based on the DNA CODIS from the gloves. And the gloves appear to match the ones that are in the video. His physical description, 5'9", 5'10", medium build, happens to match the video. That would be enough for, I believe, a federal judge to authorize a search warrant. then a search warrant will be conducted at the house. If they find the backpack, if they find the clothes, the face mask, other material that may have been used in the furtherance of a crime, then that all will be put together as part of evidence in a court proceeding, and to take to court and charge them with any other federal crimes. But it's just one of the pieces. It's definitely not the smoking gun, but it's one of the pieces.
There's so much speculation in this case, as we all know, and it just seems like it's getting more and more by the day. It's getting exhausting, frankly. It's 15 days into this, and it seems like when there's silence from law,
it's getting exhausting. I mean, you don't look tired.
Law enforcement. I know the sheriff has been giving interviews, but not really doing
It's getting exhausting.
news conferences anymore.
Sorry, I didn't mean to criticize him.
The speculation seems to be, getting larger. How would you characterize how this investigation has gone, just as someone who knows how investigations like this work?
Well, I think the investigation until this point had been going very well. I think Pima County, may have released the scene, I think, a little bit too quickly. I think they, had the scene, and we've already talked about this, and Pima County Sheriff has already stated, maybe he was a little quick to release it, and everyone understands that. But that's part of, after action reports. That's part of, delving into an investigation. That should have been held on to. That should have been for further analysis. Pima County, I'm sure their evidence response teams are excellent, but really no one is as good as the FBI's evidence response team. Their analysis teams, their collection teams, the people on the ground, the evidence response team are bar none second to, one
I mean, I don't know if it's going good.
of the best in the world.
Good.
And
I don't
having
think good's the proper term.
them brought in,
It's going.
and it would have been just as easy as to asking them, hey, could you come in and back us up? Eventually, a federal investigation was opened, and that's when the FBI said, okay, we need the scene back. That's where we had what happened last week. The investigation was progressing, moving forward, and I think that it was a little bit of a stall. I did think a little bit of a stall, but with amazing work by our CAST, the cellular analysis surveillance team, CAST, which is agents and support employees who take cellular analysis, they take digital evidence, and they really, really understand and break it down as to the core, and then provide that as physical evidence. CAST team in Arizona was working with the Nest servers because Ms. Guthrie was not recording it. So they were looking into the possibility of recovering the lost data and the video in the servers. They were successful.
Damn you.
Now, here's where there was a screw up and a mess up by the FBI. FBI leadership, and I'm assuming this came from Director Patel, is they decided to release the video. Now, one of the things I said, I was literally live on the air with one of your counterparts when the video was released. I was providing on-air commentary, and one of the first things I said was, I'm sure the
I'm honestly I'm so self-conscious about it right now. It's just I just want to hang it up, It's so hard.
FBI has had this a number of days to analyze it, to break it down, to look at every single evidence, little bit of evidence in that video before they give it to the public. So I'm thinking that they've had it 2 to 3 days. What happened in the next day or two? You saw the tent getting popped up for height analysis. Then you saw the backpack being identified. Mm-hmm. That to me was clear to me that this was being done after the release. There is no FBI agent, no team member, no evidence response, no CAST individual. As a case agent for 20 years, there's no way I would want that information, that video released to the public. Number one reason is I haven't had a chance to break it down. Maybe there's something in there that I could identify and realize what store that was bought. And then at the store, they can give a surveillance video, and then we can identify a subject of interest without them knowing that we are following them, without them knowing. This put the advantage by releasing that video. Kash Patel decided to release that video for whatever reason, public relations reasons, to say the FBI is doing a great job. We don't need that sort of public relations win. But Kash Patel decided to do it. He then gave the advantage back to the criminal. Why? Because once that criminal knows, what is the criminal going to do? Get rid of the backpack, get rid of the face mask, get rid of the jacket, get rid of the gun. All pieces of clear evidence that a U.S. attorney would want in court or state attorney, a DA, would want in court to prove this was recovered at his home. Here's the video of him, disabling the Ring doorbell camera.
Right.
That individual now also can flee. He could be on the other side of the planet at this time because he says, oh no, they have me on video.
I thought about that as well. I was like, why wouldn't this person just take off? I'm trying. Dude, Bivolade got more head than he got body.
You're giving the advantage to them. This completely was a huge headache to investigators. It didn't give them the opportunity. Then on top of all of this, before they were able to really dissect the backpack and analyze it and figure out this was the make, these are the stores, this would take at least 4, 5, 6 days, right?
Yeah.
In that time, in those first 3 days, 14,000 tips were given. 14,000 tips were provided, inundating the FBI with tips. And that required every single one of those tips had to be vetted, had to be worked out. If the investigators had their time to vet it out, okay, we're looking for an individual who's 5'10", who's wearing this type of backpack. We know that this backpack is sold at this store. That would have been 14,000 would have been much less number of tips and would not have inundated the system. Those FBI agents in Arizona, those analysts, those support employees, they're working their butts off. And by releasing that video too soon, Kash Patel created an inordinate amount of extra work for that case team where they don't need to be doing that. That was a mistake, 100%, no doubt about it, that I'm sure that every case agent, everyone down in the field was complete disagreement with.
Because you look at a couple instances where we've seen people who have been detained and then released, where you have the gentleman by the US-Mexico border whose name was Carlos, and that was a tip that came in, and someone said, hey, I think you should look at this guy. And then the mother-in-law of the house was saying that, when the SWAT team entered the home.
What did I do yesterday, Amanda?
They were holding up pictures and saying, is this your son-in-law? And she said no. And then you have the other night.
I don't really know what I did yesterday that was any different than every other day. I'm dead serious.
At the home about 2 miles from where Nancy Guthrie lives. You also have this traffic stop. I think the jury might still be out on whether there was information, I guess, publicly that was taken from that house that could be evaluated.
He doesn't have. Well, the point is on top of his, it meets at the top of his head. But other than that, I don't know.
Value to the investigation. But what do you make knowing that those tips are coming in? And we've seen to this point, at least 2 people be detained and questioned by law enforcement and then be released.
I've got no problem with that. I've got no problem with someone being detained and questioned based on a tip. I'm curious as to seeing the writing in the affidavit for the search warrant, because to get a search warrant for a house, you need to have probable cause to believe that that house has evidence of the crime. Having that tip either had to be extremely specific or just having a tip that says, oh, I believe this guy, X guy did it. That to me is pretty weak. But if they were able to obtain a federal search warrant based upon that, I'm curious to see, what the probable cause was to execute a search warrant. But I have no problem with them detaining and questioning individuals. But again, this goes back to when the video was released.
Right.
If the teams had time to it, we wouldn't be running in 10 different directions like a chicken with your head cut off, stopping people, detaining people. It would have been much more focused, hyper investigation. Not to mention if they had been able to determine and they'd squeezed it for all it's worth, all the juice out of that video, and then determine a subject, that person wouldn't know that they're being watched. Now they're going to look over their left shoulder, over their right shoulder, because they think that the FBI is coming for them. So again, I have no problem with them stopping and detaining people and questioning them and releasing them. So that's part of the investigation.
And I'm sure in your career, you've looked at countless Ring doorbell cameras, Nest cameras, as those have become more popular, surveillance videos of suspects. Now that we've all seen this video and you look at it, in terms of suspects you have seen on camera where you can take something from that video, how valuable, like specifically this person, what are the things you're extracting from that video when you watch it?
Well, it confirms what I was saying before the video was released, saying that this team or this group of people was amateurs. They're not professional criminals. They're not professional kidnappers. And I was saying that before because You don't kidnap. I mean, looking at talking to numerous counterparts of mine in the crisis negotiation team, is that you don't kidnap an 84-year-old woman with medical issues.
Right.
You don't. I mean, because if you're doing this for kidnap for ransom, she's got a week, maybe, if you didn't have her medication, maybe a week, or maybe at best. You kidnap someone who's in their 40s, someone who's in their 30s. And on top of that, the communications, you sent it to local media stations, TMZ. There's not a clear communication route. You don't providing a communication way back. Then with the video being released, it confirmed my theory of that these were amateurs. He wore a very distinctive backpack. He wore a very distinctive shirt. He had a gun, a holster in a place where you're not supposed to hold a holster, a full size. Maybe appendix carry would be inside the waistband at the quarter, but not directly in front of your crotch. And that's a full holster. So I saw that. I said, this guy's a wannabe criminal. He's not, he's not a professional at best.
The hell's a wannabe criminal? I mean, it's like you're either a criminal or you're not. If you're doing criminal shit, you're a criminal. A wannabe criminal? Are there, professional criminals, I guess, but anybody that does crime is, I would think, a criminal.
And he makes mistakes all the time. He's there for 41 minutes. He stood on the porch, I would guess about 3 to 5 seconds. Because if you look at the blood droplets, there was, those news cameras, when that scene was released, news cameras went up to the porch. You see the blood and it's droplets straight down. Okay, they weren't at an angle like she was being dragged or rushed out. There were droplets, boom, which means she was standing in place for probably like 3 to 5 seconds. I would guess bleeding from her hand or her arm, where her hand was just dripping just straight down. Again, they're standing on the porch. If these were professionals, they'd have her in and out. They'd be rushing in and out. If it was a home invasion, they would have gone in. They want to be in and out in minutes. If it was a home invasion gone bad, they probably would have hurt her and killed her and then just gotten out of there within minutes. So there's numerous things that to me indicated that these were not professional. These were not kidnappers that knew what they were doing. And
yeah, don't talk bad about the mods.
And like I said,
they do a thankless job, and I'm thanking them right now. But they have to put up with people like I don't know, whoever the hell that guy was.
I am waiting as the circle closes in on them. I would say that this is almost going to be to the point where it's not so much Pima County and the FBI finding this individual. It's going to be that individual making a mistake. And then them, like Luigi Mangione, taking his mask down for that 1 second. And then someone in the McDonald's recognizing him in Pennsylvania. It's just going to be one little mistake that they make, that they could have gotten away with it, but they're going to make a mistake because they're nervous, they're stressing. The more and more time this goes on, the less likely a positive outcome for Ms. Guthrie, but the more likely this individual is going to get tired and make a mistake.
Yeah, and that's the tough part because it's now 15 days and you do worry because her health. I know, in the beginning, the question was with her medication, if she doesn't have it in 24 hours, it could be fatal. And so, you really worry on that point of how it's going to play out. On the amateur part of it, because and I'm not a professional in law enforcement, but I looked at it and it's like, this is a guy who clearly didn't know the Ring doorbell camera or a Nest, was going to be there. And then he kind of the grabbing of the flowers, it seemed bizarre. Are you surprised that 15 days later, though, there hasn't been an arrest, knowing that this could be a very amateur group of people, that the mistake wasn't made to the point that, they would already have that person in custody?
I would, at this point right now, initially I was thinking that it was a group. I don't have a lot of confidence that those emails that were sent through TMZ was actually the group. I haven't seen the content of the emails, but supposedly there is something that states that they specifically knew the interior of the house. Listen, somebody who's, a DoorDash individual could see the inside of the house and state something, or you could walk through using Zillow. I advise all my clients, I do security consulting up here in Montana. I advise all my clients, take your houses off of Zillow, because then that individual is seeing the inside of your house. So for them to say something along those lines of saying, well, it could have gotten from Zillow. I'm not so confident. I don't know about this, so I don't know the content of these.
See how far I can make it through this one. So this is Brian Entin's podcast from today.
Thanks so much for checking out my show. I really, really appreciate it. Please click to subscribe. Of course, I'm still in Arizona. It is Sunday. A lot of big developments I'm going to get to in this episode. This is Nancy Guthrie's house. Obviously, this is kind of where I've been stationed. But we got a new statement from the
I bet Brian's just sick of the desert.
FBI talking about DNA that was found on one of the gloves that was recovered. And this could really be significant, especially in light of the DNA that we know was also found inside Nancy's home. So I have a DNA expert who I'm going to talk to, who is going to join me in a couple of minutes and explain the significance of this and why this does mean we could be getting closer to a suspect. Also, you guys remember the SWAT raid Friday night that I was at. I went back out to the house where the raid happened. Then a couple days later, I find a lot of times when you go back to places a couple days later, you can see if people want to talk then when things sort of simmer down. So I'll show you what that was like. Really nice neighborhood, by the way. So I'll take you back to the house. And then also more drama with the Pima County Sheriff. In this episode, I have an interview with a sergeant from the Pima County Sheriff's Office, who is also the union president, who is very concerned about the way the investigation has been handled. He's concerned about a lack of experience with the detectives on the case. And he explains to me what he thinks should be done differently and also what is being said within the department. It's the first time I've been able to interview him, and he is a sergeant with the department right now. And he was able to speak freely because he's got the protections because he is the union president. And then lastly, I'm going to get into the signal sniffer. Remember, I told you guys about that. That is this device that I've now found out came from the FBI that they attached to the helicopter that can actually sense Nancy's pacemaker. Everything new I've learned about that also coming up in this episode of Brian Entin Investigates. Hey guys, all right, so I want to go over the latest with you on the newest development with the FBI statement involving new DNA on the glove. And first, the statement's a little confusing, so I'm going to tell you what I make of it in a second. But first, let me just read you this new statement from an FBI spokesperson. It says, the gloves found approximately 2 miles from the Guthrie residence in a field near the side of the road were packaged up by the Pima County Sheriff's Office and sent overnight on 2/12, and they arrived at their private lab in Florida on 2/13. The FBI received preliminary results yesterday on 2/14 and are awaiting quality control and official confirmation today before putting unknown male profile into CODIS, the national database unique to the Bureau. This process typically takes 24.
I listened a little bit to the DNA stuff, Janet, and it's certainly not boring at all. I didn't find it boring.
4 hours from when the Bureau receives DNA. Investigators collected approximately 16 gloves in various areas near the house. Most of them were searchers' gloves that they described that they discarded in various areas when they searched the vicinity. The one with the DNA profile recovered is different and appears to match the glove of the subject in the surveillance video. The FBI has and will continue to provide assistance on whatever timeline is provided to us. So the most important line here that I see is the one with the DNA profile recovered is different and appears to match the glove on the subject in the surveillance video. So there is one of the gloves that they have found that is different because they say it actually matches the glove that we see.
Yeah, I mean, it's just too much with the political shit. And then it's like you're fishing to fight with people. Fact of the matter is there's an 84-year-old woman that's missing. And while I respect everybody's political beliefs, and although I don't share a lot of them, it's kind of feckless and annoying, to be honest. That you want to firebomb chats with bullshit. It's just, it's kind of stupid.
In the surveillance video at the front of Nancy Guthrie's home, and it has a DNA profile on it that they are interested in and that they are going to put into CODIS. So that is pretty significant. And remember, a lot of people are saying, well, how do they know exactly if the glove matches based on that video that we've just seen from the front door?
Yeah, you don't have to block them. Just delete like overly political comments. It's tiring.
They could have more video that we just don't know about. Nancy had other cameras, and they may only be releasing publicly the video from the front camera, but they very well may have been able to get video from the other Google Nest cameras that Nancy had. I am told she may have had one more, and maybe that also picked up video of the suspect. I don't know, but if it did, that could be another way that they're able to get a close look at the glove. So this is significant. The other thing that stood out to me is when they said that some of the other gloves that they found.
CODIS is the FBI database that stores DNA to match up for like future crimes, I guess. No. That's not what I'm talking about. You are. No, that's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about the overtly political stuff. You can have your name. That doesn't bother me or anything like that.
Were from searchers that had discarded them in various areas. I mean, that just kind of surprised me. You would think that the search crews would not be just discarding their gloves outside, especially since it appears most of the searchers have been either deputies or FBI agents. And I will say I've seen some photos of some of the law enforcement out searching with these black gloves just like hanging out of their back pocket. And I noticed it because I thought, gosh, those could just like fall out of their back pocket. And then would someone pick that up and think that that was a glove connected to the case? So that part kind of.
His crisscross applesauce is hilarious. Eric. That a guest house next to hers? I'm not sure. But thank you for the support for the channel, Eric. Thank you. We're 1/10 of 100th of a millionth away from the goal.
That stood out to me. But really the main message here is that they have a glove with the DNA profile recovered. And that glove appears to match the gloves of the subject in the surveillance video. Later in this episode, you'll hear me. I talked to a sergeant with the Pima County Sheriff's Office who actually happens to also be the union president, which is why he was allowed to talk to me. But he'll explain he's skeptical of this glove actually matching back to the suspect, just because he says there really are a lot of these gloves around. There's a lot of homeless people around. He says there's a lot of people who wear these gloves for different work that they do. So he was skeptical, but you'll hear why he says that a little later in the episode. I also want to remind you, when it comes to DNA, there was another big development over the last couple of days. The sheriff said that they found DNA in Nancy Guthrie's home, which is back there behind me, that does not connect back to Nancy Guthrie and does not connect back to anyone in her, circle of people that come to the house. So that to me is almost more significant than the DNA found on the.
Damn, that house is huge, massive. Never really noticed how massive it was. It's a pool house, right? Or something. I mean, that's sort of like. Remember when was it Uncle Phil on The Fresh Prince had a pool house that Carlton and Will would like take women over to all the time, and then they'd get rejected?
Glove, because that really could be the kidnapper's DNA. The bottom line is they're getting DNA now in from different places. Not to mention, remember the search warrant they did where they likely swabbed people for DNA there too. So the bottom line is they're getting DNA in now from different places. And this is when you start to see a case come together from the experts that I've spoken to and from the cases that I've covered. This is when DNA experts can really go to work and they can start comparing different pieces of DNA that came in and start trying to make connections. So I get the sense that things might really start heating up over the next couple of days based on some of this new information that's coming out. So again, I'm going to get to my DNA expert here in a minute, but I wanted to get through some of the other big headlines for you, and she'll actually explain how significant this is. Something else. So remember Friday night, I was at the SWAT operation that happened where they went into the house, they pulled a man and a woman out who I'm told were mother and son, and then they also pulled someone over close by as part of the same operation. And we're told there were no arrests made. It was all connected to the Nancy Guthrie investigation, but I'm told by sources not to just discount all of this, that there's still very much an investigation happening behind the scenes, that they served this federal search warrant, and that, they're still processing evidence. So I went back to the neighborhood today. I hadn't had a chance to go back since I was there when it was dark out, and I wanted to see what it looked like in the daylight. And I also wanted to go up to the door and see if anyone was home. So take a look at this. So this is my first time back in the neighborhood where the SWAT activity was on Friday night. I was here, it was obviously dark, and then I got so distracted with all the other developments of the weekend. But this is what the neighborhood looks like. It's a pretty nice neighborhood. It's interesting because again, it was so dark when I was out here. It's interesting to see it all in the daylight. This is the house here that the SWAT activity happened at, and it's pretty quiet around. I'm gonna go to the door and see if anybody is home at the house.
The hell was that sound?
Doesn't look like anybody's answering. I think other reporters have already been here. I'm not sure if anyone's home, although there is a car. Oh, hi, we'll be right there, it said.
Yeah, I'm sure they'll be right there.
I don't think anyone's coming. I did.
I mean,
I saw someone in the window. Hello?
I don't know if that would be considered a police emergency, but you could tell them to leave, and then if they don't, then you could call the cops. I mean, you could call the cops if you wanted to, but
Hello? There was a woman that just opened the blind just for a second. But yeah, I don't think they're coming out. Like I said, I think some other reporters have been here, and it looked like a kind of an older woman that opened the curtain just for a second. There's this car that was in an accident in the driveway. But yeah, so this is the neighborhood. It's a pretty nice neighborhood. Kind of reminds me of Nancy Guthrie's neighborhood a little bit. It's about 2 miles away, but the houses are much, much closer together.
Did JLR really go and knock on the door?
And they're out closer to the road. In Nancy's neighborhood, there's obviously a lot more like shrubbery and cactuses in the front. So I'll go back to that house again. I find just with my reporting that sometimes when things cool down and all the other reporters leave, and if I kind of forget about something, that that's the best time to kind of swoop in and try to talk to people. So I'm going to check out the house again and just keep an eye on that whole situation.
That was the house where SWAT was.
Because again, while there were no arrests, I'm told that there's still activity happening behind the scenes. Something else I wanted to update you guys on, if you follow me on Twitter, I've talked about this signal sniffer, which I confirmed that I actually have video of this helicopter. We saw it last week. It was the Pima County Sheriff's Office helicopter that was hovering very, very low over Nancy Guthrie's house, and then hovering low over the side yard and the backyard and just different areas around the house. But it was peculiar because I haven't seen search and rescue helicopters hover in one place that low for extended period of times. Like it would stay in one spot for like 3 minutes and then move, but again, very, very low. And I am told that there was a piece of technology on the chopper that was sent in from the FBI called a signal sniffer. And it's a new kind of technology. It's pretty top secret in many ways. And they attach it to a skid of the helicopter, and it could actually sense Nancy Guthrie's pacemaker. Again, I'm told it's an imperfect science and it's a new technology, and it has to hover low and it has to stay in one place. That's why the helicopter was just like not moving around a ton. But they believe that it has there's the possibility that it could actually pick up on Nancy Guthrie's pacemaker. It also, by the way, picks up on other things. AirPods, I'm told, smart washers and dryers, all of those things. So it becomes a little complicated trying to narrow it down. But it's interesting. It is a technology that they have used in the past. And I confirmed that with one of my sources on the ground. And then News Nation reporter Libby Dean, who's my friend in DC, also confirmed it with her FBI source that the FBI did send that technology in. And that it has been used, which is just interesting because I've never heard of something like that before. And it's just kind of fascinating that they could try to detect Nancy's pacemaker. And hopefully, when I saw them using it, it was over a week ago. So I don't know if they've used it again, but it's kind of a neat piece of technology that they're using in this investigation. I want to go now, though, to Cece Moore, who is really just a famous DNA expert. She's worked on a lot of big cases, and I want to get her take on this latest information that we got from the FBI regarding the DNA on the glove and also the DNA in Nancy Guthrie's house. I'm joined now by Cece Moore. It's nice to see you, Cece.
Nice to see you.
I think it's quiet out here. Hopefully I'm outside Nancy Guthrie's house, so sometimes it gets a little noisy out here, but I think it'll be okay. Just a lot of people in the crime community know you, obviously, but just for people who don't know you, tell me a little bit about your background.
Well, I'm one of the early pioneers of genetic genealogy, and then that transition into using it for law enforcement purposes. And I am the chief genetic genealogist at Parabon Nanolabs. My small team and I have helped law enforcement solve over 365 cases now. So I think we've really proven the power of investigative genetic genealogy.
For sure. So I'm glad you're the perfect person for me to talk to about these latest developments with Nancy Guthrie. The first thing I wanted to ask you is this new information that came out from the FBI about this glove that was found 2 miles from Nancy Guthrie's house that they found some DNA on, and they're going to put into CODIS, I guess, after they finalize the testing. What do you make of that? What does that mean?
It's interesting to me that they've agreed.
Before we get going on this, you'll find that there are people in every chat that don't like certain people. There are people in my chat that don't even like me. It's just life. I mean, JLR has a pass. Some people don't like Brian Entin's style. I have no problem with anybody. I'm not a hater. I'm really not. So it's really not that big of a deal.
To put it into CODIS because
it's just the internet, dude. The comment sections are always crazy.
That usually means that they feel fairly confident about it. They have very strict guidelines about what DNA is allowed in that database. So that leads me to believe that they have a reasonable belief that it could be from the crime scene. However, being 2 miles away, of course, I would obviously use great caution in coming to conclusions about who the suspect is just based on that alone. We've had a lot of cases where we have analyzed things like gloves and like other items in or near crime scenes. And of course, when you're doing that, it really requires that there is a lot more caution used because it very well could be an innocent person.
Yeah, and a lot of people use those black gloves for different jobs. And like you said, the fact that it's 2 miles away. The sheriff also said that they found DNA in Nancy's house that doesn't connect back to Nancy and doesn't connect to anyone really within her circle. Because apparently they've swabbed, like the workers that have gone in and out and the family members and stuff. That to me, is that significant?
To me, that's much more significant because we know that's tied to the crime scene. Of course, it still doesn't guarantee that it is the suspect. DNA can last a long time depending on what the form is of that DNA. I've worked cases where we analyzed a drop of blood and it ended up being someone who'd lived in the house 2 years earlier. And of course, we know Nancy has been there for many years, decades. So she should have a pretty good idea. I mean, her family should have a pretty good idea about who has been in and out there. So that helps a lot. I am very optimistic about that part of it, much more so than the glove. And I think that if they really do have that alien DNA there, that DNA that they are not able to tie to any known person, that could very well be the answer to this case.
And I'm told that with some of these people that they've been questioning, you know, they've done some search warrants over the last week, that they are swabbing them also for DNA.
Yeah, makes perfect sense.
How does that work? So what, then they will go and compare that to what they found in the house, or how does that work behind the scenes?
Right. So that is using the traditional law enforcement DNA analysis that they have used for decades in cases like this. So that's just a straight profile, one-to-one comparison. Do any of those individuals...
Do you really not know the answer to that? Or are you just asking, or are you being facetious? do you really not know?
Match any of, and does the DNA profile from any of those persons of interest match any of the DNA that was found in the house? If they did, that's obviously huge. Even if it matched that glove, that could be really telling, right? Because that's unlikely to be a coincidence then. That's not something that they would need to use genetic genealogy for. So that is just the traditional type of testing and comparisons.
How long does it take to get results for something like that? Like if they go and do a search warrant and swab someone, how quickly could they know if it connects back to the DNA on the glove or the DNA in the house?
Well, that could be very quick because there's such a thing as rapid DNA now. And I'm sure they are using it in this case since it is so timely. And with those, you can create those law enforcement profiles, the type of DNA that's entered into the CODIS database, very quickly, almost immediately. And so that's something that they should have results on extremely quickly.
And when you say quickly, is it like hours even?
Yes, hours.
Okay, so I'm just thinking because this latest raid was on Friday night. It's now, when we're doing this interview, it's Sunday. There have still been no arrests. So maybe they've already gotten the results by this point.
They may have. It just depends what technology they're using. Typically, it would take, I'd say, overnight, a full day if they're using the traditional crime scene analysis. But if they're using one of those rapid DNA analysis machines, which I would be very surprised if they weren't, that is very, very quick. So they would already have answers to some of those questions, I imagine.
If they've sent everything so far to this lab in Florida, which the sheriff's department uses, if they do a swab of someone here, do they then have to send it to that lab? Or can they do something here where they just compare it?
They could do something there if they have the rapid DNA machine there. So the private lab, the outside lab, is going to be most useful when it comes to creating a SNP profile, which is what we use for genetic genealogy. Many labs, including crime labs, the FBI, many others, are able to create that traditional STR profile, that short tandem repeat profile. That's what law enforcement has used for decades. That is what they use to charge someone with a crime and eventually convict somebody with a crime. And so there's a wide capability to do that. So they could have sent it to their own crime lab there in Arizona. They could have sent it to the FBI for that, or they could also have DNA Labs International in Florida working on that part of the case. That's a much more quick process as compared to creating the SNP profile and trying to perform genetic genealogy on it.
Yeah, when I think of genetic genealogy, I think of the Koberger case, which I think is the first time that a lot of people had ever heard of that. Is it essentially where they go? Well, tell me could they use it in a case like this?
Oh, absolutely. In fact, I've been waiting for that to happen, just hoping that there would be DNA found that was not tied to any of the known individuals from the home, because that will solve the case if nothing else does. It's just a matter of time then. If they have that DNA, that person who left that DNA will be identified.
So the stranger's DNA in the house, they could figure out who that person is, even if
Absolutely, yes.
just they could come up with it almost out of nowhere. Even if none
Well,
of
it's a
these
lot
other
of work.
yeah,
It's
yeah,
not out of nowhere, but
yeah.
it is a highly reliable method of reverse engineering somebody's identity just from their DNA. So if someone leaves their DNA behind at a crime scene, then they absolutely can and eventually will be identified through investigative genetic genealogy. What is going to determine how long that takes is what population group that person is from. So if their ancestry is from Latin America and they have recent immigrant ancestors, it'll be much more difficult to identify that individual. So it could take a lot longer. We have a lot of those Hispanic cases, and they tend to take weeks, months, or years compared to somebody who has deep roots in the United States and primarily Northwest European ancestry.
She talks a little bit about how Ancestry DNA, like the three major DNA companies, don't like to work with law enforcement, which I find surprising.
Is that because if you are Hispanic and your family just came here recently, you're not in as many databases? You don't have distant relatives in as many databases?
Exactly. Now, they could get lucky and there could be a close relative in the genetic genealogy databases, but that's really unlikely. And that's because despite the fact that over 50 million people have taken direct consumer DNA tests, for law enforcement cases, we are limited to the 2 or 3 smallest databases, which is less than 2 million people. And I'm hearing a lot of misconceptions out there. People are saying they can use Ancestry, they can use 23andMe. That is not true. Ancestry, 23andMe, and MyHeritage, the 3 largest consumer DNA databases, have barred law enforcement's use. And there are 2 well-known databases, GEDmatch and Family Tree DNA, that have agreed to work with law enforcement. And then there's a new nonprofit called DNA Justice that's much smaller, but it can also be used. And so those are the ones that they will have to work in unless they can serve a successful warrant on the larger databases. Now, if I was Savannah Guthrie and her family, I would be begging management at Ancestry, 23andMe, and MyHeritage to allow the genetic genealogy profile to be compared in there, because it would be a much more straightforward and quicker identification that way. But so far, they've been very, very resistant to that, even though studies have shown that 91% of the public is in favor of using genetic genealogy to identify this type of criminal.
I'm so glad you explained that, because I didn't know that. I just assumed that you had access to all of them. I didn't know
I wish.
that.
We'd be solving thousands and thousands and thousands of cases. Every day we would be solving a case, because if, for instance, you're adopted now and you want to find your biological family, you can compare against 50 million plus profiles, and you can almost always find that family quite quickly. And I used to work adoption cases back when we had a tiny database. So working law enforcement cases now is like stepping back to, say, 2014, trying to find somebody's biological family. And that is just because of the size of the databases. So because we're working in GEDmatch, where you have to not only be in the database, but opt into law enforcement matching, that is maybe 600,000, 700,000 people. And then
Rhett wants everybody to know that the DNA lady is a baddie.
Family Tree DNA, there is maybe 1.2 million or so in that database. They don't release their exact number. So, some of those are the same people. So it's really under 2 million people. And you've got to get a little lucky, right? You've got to hope that there are close enough relatives in there for you to be able to find their common ancestors. And so we're working with 2nd, 3rd, 4th, 5th cousins and beyond the vast majority of the time. Occasionally you will get a close relative, just luck.
It's like a good looking person, a good looking lady.
So it's really going to depend on luck and population group as far as how long genetic genealogy would take to identify this unknown individual.
2 questions. Do the bigger companies that you were talking about that don't let you use their database, have there been warrants where they make exceptions?
No, I do not believe there has been, based on some very good inside sources I have. But I know that they are ready to serve them in a
Okay.
case that has, high priority. For instance, if Charlie Kirk's killer had not been identified so quickly, or the person who tried to assassinate President Trump, those would have been the type of cases where I think it's very likely the FBI would have gone ahead and served that warrant on the commercial companies Ancestry, 23andMe.
Interesting.
In a case like this, will they? I don't know. But I think that this is going to happen one of these days, and it's going to be a huge knockdown, drag out fight between law enforcement and the courts and these very powerful deep pocket consumer DNA testing companies.
Appreciate that. Thank you.
Do you think that they have started ancestral DNA testing? I don't know how you phrase it with this case. Do you think it's already started?
Absolutely. I think they are doing it in parallel, like they did in the Koberger case, where there's enough DNA where they can split that basically, and they can create the STR profile, that traditional profile from some of the DNA, and then will at the same time be creating that SNP profile with another portion of the DNA. And even in Koberger's case, for instance, they were able to do that, and it was just transfer DNA or touch DNA, right? It couldn't have been a lot. So it just depends on what they found in Nancy's home, how much they have, but we need such a tiny, tiny amount to create that genetic genealogy profile that I feel very confident that they are doing that. And I've worked with DNA Labs International in Florida, the company that is doing this, and they are very good at.
I have a little bit of like Cherokee in me. And so it was always just enough to be able to get to go on the field trips with the, like the Native Americans, and they would always say, "Hey, do you want to go?" And I'm like, "Dude, if we could leave school, yeah, I'll go." Yeah, I ended up in a sweat lodge eating fish tacos, and I was scared out of my mind. I had no idea. Like it was like an underground lodge. It was crazy.
Extracting DNA from evidence.
It was quite the experience. Seriously.
They have done that on a lot of my successful cases.
I hate fish, but I was starving.
Because that's not something that Parabon does. We send that out. And so I have full confidence in them. I do not at all think it was devastating that it was sent to them. I trust them. And I am sure they are already working towards creating that SNP profile, if not already completed it, and uploading it to those databases where they need to compare it against the people that have allowed us to do that.
And I know you said it's hard to say an exact time, but like what is the range of time you think
they were crispy tacos
would take for them to get results to find a second, third, fourth cousin of whoever did this?
Yeah.
Well, it takes a little while just to get the comparisons back. So once you upload that SNP profile to GEDmatch and Family Tree DNA, it can take a day or two, or sometimes even longer at Family Tree DNA to get that list of people who share DNA with that unknown DNA contributor. So I doubt that they have it yet, but it might be very, very close to being compared at GEDmatch. If they were able to create that, say, yesterday and upload it, it would be undergoing those comparisons right now. They might have their match list, as early as today or tomorrow for that data.
Wow.
Now, if there are significant enough matches there, and when I say matches, it's very different than what most people are used to with law enforcement cases. Matches has traditionally been an exact match, right? You're looking for that person in the CODIS database, their DNA. Or if your state allows familial searching, then you're looking for someone who's a very close relative in the law enforcement databases. Only some states allow that. But that can only detect a first-degree relative. You need a parent, child, or a full sibling. They also can do a Y chromosome search. That's a little bit more complex. But that is very, very different than in genetic genealogy databases. When we say a match, that is a partial match. That is someone who typically will share just a little bit of their DNA. It might be less than 1% of their DNA. And you get a long list.
Yeah, I mean, this is like 2 weeks. I think the cartel wouldn't be. By the way, did Harvey Levin get another letter today? Probably not.
So everybody that puts their DNA in one of those databases will have hundreds or thousands of matches, depending on their population group. We're usually looking at the top dozen,
Joey, I never
2 dozen, 3 dozen.
I had no doubt, Joey. None.
Matches, and then trying to figure out how they're related to all of those people. They might be third cousins, meaning they share great-great-grandparents. So we've got to figure out which set of their great-great-grandparents. And we do that by looking for patterns in the data, overlaps, triangulation.
I think he is listening to her. I think that he's probably sweating his bag off, and he's worried about snakes too. He's got a lot going on. I mean, I don't think he likes the desert much. Like, it'd be cool for like 2 or 3 days.
Who's this one person or set of siblings that is related to all of these people sharing DNA with the unknown suspect? So it can take a long time. The fastest I've ever been able to do it once I got my DNA list from GEDmatch was 30 minutes. And then I have some cases I've been working on for 7 years. So
wow.
Population.
So it's hard to say.
It really is. But
yeah.
In a high priority active case like this, I'm sure they're going to throw everything at it they can, all the resources they can. DNA Labs International has a really good chief genetic genealogist there that I have a lot of confidence in. And so if she's not already working on it, I'm sure she will be soon. And this is the type of case that you push to the top of the pile, and that's because it's active, right? The vast majority of the cases that we're working are cold cases, and they're still important, but public safety is not at risk as much as when you're working an active case like this or Koberger, for instance. They need to stop these people in their tracks.
So interesting. Is there anything else, Cece, you think with this case is important? I mean, and we don't know, obviously, all the details, but the fact that they have DNA from inside the house, the glove, there's probably other things that we don't know about. From a DNA perspective, do you think they're making progress just based on what you know from the outside?
Well, it's always hard to know what's going on behind the scenes. I'm sometimes so frustrated when I'm working on a case and I see the commentary that's out there in the public, because I know on those cases what's happening, and it's often very different than what the public or even the media is speculating. So I hesitate to speculate on that. But I have, as I said, a lot of confidence that they are moving this forward. The agency already had a relationship with DNA Labs International and a contract, which means they've been successful in the past. They trust them. And as I said, I have full trust as well. I think anyone making negative comments like that, it's really just competitive posturing. We don't need that in this case. We want Nancy found, we want this person identified. It doesn't matter which company does it or which lab does it, which of course I'd love to work the case, right? But I don't really care as long as somebody skilled.
Let her in. Yeah. Rattlesnakes, you just gotta really kind of watch her. They're not going to chase you down. They really don't want to mess with you. The people that get bit by rattlesnakes are the ones that like go after them.
Is doing it. And
thank you, Eric. Thank you for coming back.
They did not make a mistake, in my opinion, sending that to DNA Labs International. They can bring in the FBI genetic genealogy team too, if it ends up being a really difficult case, just like they did in the Koberger case, right? It was started at the private lab. It was transferred to the FBI investigative genetic genealogy team, and they were the ones who made that identification of Brian. And that could happen in this case too. If it's taking too long for the private lab, then they can certainly bring in the FBI genetic genealogy team, and they have resources that we don't have. And so sometimes, especially in these immigrant cases, Latin American cases, we have had the FBI come in and take over cases, and they were able to identify that person using resources we didn't have, like border crossings, right? Immigration records, things that we wouldn't typically be able to access, because as genetic genealogists outside the government, we are just working with public records only. We don't have special law enforcement access. We just have access to what everyone else has. Actually less, since we can't use the big databases like you could if you were researching your own family.
I don't think Rod is here.
Wow, really interesting. Cece, I appreciate you explaining it to me. Thank you for taking the time. I appreciate CC for taking the time to talk to me and explaining some of this DNA stuff to me, because it can be this is where things get really complicated and scientific. But as you heard her say, this is also when cases come together, and we're starting to see DNA evidence really appear in this Nancy Guthrie case. So hopefully this will help move things along. I also want you to hear my interview that I just did with Sergeant Aaron Cross, who...
Okay, so this is here comes another guy that I think he's gonna. I haven't seen this. I listened to a little bit of what she said earlier. I was walking. It was a torrential downpour, so I didn't get to focus on it too much. But it was a good interview, I thought, but I am surprised that they don't participate more, like the big genealogy places. I don't know. You know what? I don't know how you cheat in curling. Why would you do it? It's a lot. Like I saw not Jesse Weber, but the other guy, when he was like, this case is getting exhausting. I mean, he's sitting in a studio. What he's doing is exhausting. Sitting crisscross applesauce in the desert in February.
Is a Pima County Sheriff's Office sergeant, and
well, it's the biggest case in the world. He's not going anywhere.
I've made a lot of sources on the ground here, but it's difficult talking to people within the department on camera because they can get in big trouble for speaking. What's interesting about Sergeant Cross is he is also the union president, so he has protections and can speak more freely. He's not on the inside of the Nancy Guthrie investigation at all, so he can't speak about what's happening from the inside of the investigation, but he has a ton of expertise when it comes to this area. He's been with the sheriff's office for almost 20 years, and he also is able to talk about and openly, which is difficult here because people are nervous to talk badly about the sheriff who are still working there. But he can talk about concerns that the deputies have about the sheriff, about the way the investigation has been handled, and why he thinks the FBI should have been brought in sooner. So listen to my conversation with Sergeant Cross. The first thing I wanted to ask you about was just this new FBI statement that I showed you. First of all, apparently there's a lot of gloves that have been found.
Yeah.
What do you make of that? I mean, I guess these gloves are used for all sorts of purposes, it seems.
It is pretty common. It could be from investigators. It could also be, I mean, we have a large amount of homeless that live and camp in the area. We also have, we've experienced a lot of nighttime car break-ins in this area as well. So, I mean, it could be from any one of those things. Hopefully it's related to the Guthrie kidnapping or incident, and they're able to get some DNA out of it, and it breaks the case.
We have great mods. We have great chat. Even the trolls aren't that bad most of the time. Some of them are actually really funny. It's the political stuff that just gets old. This is a big distraction.
But I understand it was found a couple.
Why wouldn't they just drop a nuke on Antarctica if they were looking for a distraction?
Couple miles away. Hopefully, as he's driving away, he throws his gloves out the window. Maybe we'll get a lucky break. But there's a lot of possibilities.
It just seems like that would be a dumb thing to do, though. I mean, if you're the suspect,
yeah,
why wouldn't you bury them or hold on to them?
Yeah, it seems very unusual. He seemed to be very prepared and very careful, at least on the.
And for those of you that don't know, dropping a nuke on Antarctica is against the Geneva Convention. The Geneva Convention is a set of rules for war that nobody actually listens to.
Video that was released, and so it would seem very out of character for what we're able to see, but you know, hopefully we'll get lucky.
And you are a sergeant with the Pima County Sheriff's Office and also the union president.
Yes, sir.
So you're able to talk to us about some of these issues with the department because you're protected.
Correct.
By which is why we haven't really been able to talk to anyone else within the.
Yeah, I can speak on matters of public concern. Yeah, and have some protections from that.
Do you ever get nervous about retaliation?
Oh, all the time. I'm sure I'll be drugged in to answer questions about this very interview.
Okay. So. What is since you have your pulse, I mean, how many deputies did you say are in your union?
So we have a little over 300 out of the about 396 detectives and deputies in the department.
So almost everybody.
Yes, sir.
So what is this? what is the feeling right now within the department? I mean, you guys have the eyes of the world on you.
Yeah, it's tough. The deputies, they haven't been impacted as much. The detectives, though, they're working. I mean, some of them are working 8 days straight. Some of them have put in 70, 80-hour weeks for the last couple of weeks. So they're doing everything possible to try and solve this crime. They're working very hard, sacrificing a lot of time with their families, and they're doing everything they can.
Hunter, are you wearing a shirt? Why haven't the mayor said anything on this? I don't know. The president did. I went to school with a guy named, his name was, his first name was Hunter. His middle name was Trapper. And his last name was Fisher. Hunter Trapper Fisher. Put a shirt on, Hunter.
But it's definitely taken a toll a little bit. You can tell when you speak with them. There's a little bit of burnout. I get that sense. They haven't vocalized that to me, but you can tell it's been a lot. And working 80 hours a week, 70 hours a week, that's a tall order.
And a lot of pressure. I mean, everybody wants to find Nancy, you know?
Certainly, yeah. The whole, it feels like the whole world, or at least the nation, that their eyes are on us. And so there's a lot of pressure internally as well as externally to try and solve this quickly.
Is it true, and I've just heard this from some people around the sheriff's office, that the homicide team is pretty inexperienced right now?
They're pretty new, and that goes for really all the departments. So we have
Dubs in the chat. You think so? You want Dubs in the chat? Rhett comes. Apparently, we got a baddie sniffer in the chat. W's in the chat for Hunter, equally as big of a baddie as the DNA girl. I disagree wholeheartedly.
96 detectives. 45 of them are detective ones, meaning they're pretty new. Inside the unit, I think the person that has the most experience inside that unit has 3 years in homicide, and then some of them are more experienced detectives. They just haven't been in homicide. So there's been a lot of turnover. Another example is that our deputies, we have 195 deputies in patrol. 101 are on probation, meaning they have less than a year. We've experienced several waves of exodus of deputies going to other agencies or retiring early to go work somewhere else. So we're feeling the consequences of that, both on the detective side and in patrol.
Yeah, that's kind of alarming when you think about a case this complicated.
Very.
And we know the sheriff's office is still technically in charge. You'd think there'd be people with decades of experience.
Yes. And if this case happened 10 years ago, we would have a lot more experience to handle it. However, I mean, like I said, we only have 96 detectives compared to something like the FBI. They could bring thousands of investigators that they could pull from across the country. So we're a medium-sized department, and of course there are limitations that come with that.
Have there been frustrations on the inside about the way this has been handled?
A little bit. They vocalized some of that to me. A lot of it is just some of the decision-making from the top makes them look incompetent, and a lot of those decisions weren't theirs. And so I agree with one of Sheriff Nanos's versions was that we gave up the scene probably a little too early. And perhaps we could have kept that locked down, maybe with the permission of the family, could have put up crime scene tape after the search warrant was concluded, just with the understanding, hey, we're probably going to have to come back after. Is it okay if we keep people out? And see if the family would have agreed with that and put up that security to keep people away, just to maintain that crime scene as pristine as possible.
What about this relationship with the FBI? Because we've heard from FBI sources that it has.
Seems like portions of it
hasn't been good.
Yeah.
You know, I even heard a couple nights ago there was some critical information that wasn't shared with Ebola that they just didn't tell the FBI about.
Yeah.
And then, you know, this whole issue with the lab.
What the hell is
it's going to Florida where
hold on a second. The sheriff needs to put his ego aside. Grundle Cheese 6675. I don't even know what the holy shit. What's up, the Jab? Good to see you. I appreciate it. Thank you. Grundle cheese? Oh my God. Grundle cheese.
The FBI is why isn't some of this stuff going to Quantico?
Yeah.
Where does that stem from?
So my opinion is that this comes from 2016. I think when Sheriff Nanos was investigated, when he was interim sheriff back then, I think that investigation caused a lot of the icy relationship that we see today. I don't. He holds grudges, and took that as a shot, and I think that he hasn't forgotten it. And I think that's driving some of the decision making that's going on right now.
Do you think the relationship?
Who exactly is this guy again? I must have missed it. I was distracted by Grundle cheese and Shirtless Hunter.
Is getting better at all though? Because when we went out to the search warrant, I guess that was on Friday night. You know, the FBI was there for that.
Yeah.
It was
He's a union representative for the police department or for the sheriff's office.
It was your SWAT team, but then it was an FBI search warrant, federal search warrant. I mean, do you think they're trying to mend that now, or what's your?
What the hell is a union? What the hell is a union? He's in charge of the union. He's the head. Oh, so he's like Hoffa? Like Jimmy Hoffa?
Sense.
If there's any efforts to mend the fences between them, it's only because of public pressure for him to do so. But I think that this case, what worries me is I'm worried that this case has become an ego case for him, that this is our chance to one-up the FBI or to show that we're as good as the FBI. And I'm not sure that should be driving the decision-making. We have very capable, hardworking detectives. However, it's like I said before, we're a medium-sized agency. We just simply don't have the manpower, the assets, the funding that something like the FBI could bring to bear.
What happened with? I've heard some rumblings about the search plane and the pilot, I think, or do you know much about that situation?
Yes, sir. It was a pilot / TFD, a tactical flight deputy. So our plane has two people in it. It's the pilot and the person behind him who is operating the.
I mean, how unusual is this? It has to be very unusual for the head of the union to come out and criticize the acting sheriff in an ongoing investigation. Holy crap. It's unbelievable.
The high definition cameras, the FLIR, all that. And so there was a pilot / TFD who was
this is beyond reality.
Normally assigned to work that day with a pilot. However, he was transferred the week before, I believe on January 25th. And he was transferred back to patrol, and as a result of that, he was not replaced. And so as a result of that, the plane was not able to be used immediately. From what I understand from people who worked that day, the helicopter was initially used because there was a pilot at the hangar and a helicopter pilot, so they jumped in the helicopter and responded, and that has some benefit when you fly.
Well, I'm going to pause it for a second. I'm not criticizing him for doing it. I'm just saying that this is highly unusual, highly problematic. And it really is. It's just odd, man. It's very, very odd.
A helicopter around a missing person. Oftentimes people, they go out of their house to go, what's going on? Why is their helicopter flying so low around the neighborhood? And so when you get people out of their houses, sometimes they'll see a disoriented elderly person or someone in need, a small child, and they'll call 911. However, eventually they called the TFD out that day, and then they flew back to the hangar, I understand, and then got the plane out of the hangar and got it overhead. But that
Nanos is, yes, he's elected, but I think he won just by like a little bit.
Took 2 or 3 hours from what I understand.
So did the sheriff have an issue? You said the person was transferred out.
Yes, sir.
Do you know why?
There's a minor demeanor complaints with the pilot. I think he'd been around 17 years, and there's some demeanor complaints in behavior with his interactions with some other people inside the unit that, in my opinion, could have been handled a little differently. He received informal discipline and then was transferred. I think that informal discipline and perhaps a special observation probation would have been more appropriate and would have kept that asset, which is that plane is the most valuable law enforcement asset in southern Arizona. And if it moved to Phoenix, it would be the most valuable asset in Phoenix. It's that good.
Yeah, I've seen it. It has the monitors in the back. It's
fantastic.
It's impressive. I saw some pictures.
It's fantastic.
Of it. Yeah.
And all the local agencies around us, whenever it's available, they want to use it for any of their cases. It's extremely valuable. And so I feel like handling that a little bit differently would have kept that plane ready and addressed the problem with the employee. But that decision was made differently.
So that deputy is a deputy, yeah?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, he had 17 years of experience
flying
with that kind of work?
Yes, sir.
And he hasn't been able to work this case?
Correct. And he started as a TFD that we then made into a pilot. So he had 17 years in the air unit, I should clarify. Okay. But he'd been a long-time pilot, was a long-time TFD, and was very good at his job.
So he could be helpful right now?
Yes. That day, they would have been up quickly, and perhaps the searchers, because when this first came out, we initially believed that it was an elderly person who may have bumped their head or something and walked away. And so having that plane up with its capabilities would have allowed the search and rescue team to, in my opinion, more quickly realize that she's not in the area, and maybe we need to start looking somewhere else and thinking about this.
Oh, I think that they're trying to make the assumption or assertion, excuse me, not assumption, assertion that the sheriff needs to step aside and fully hand this over to the FBI because he's a not corrupt, maybe inept, maybe in over his head. That I'm not saying that. I'm just saying that's sort of what it feels like. They're saying that the case needs to be handed over
differently, especially considering the blood drops.
Tell me a little bit about. I read about an.
Well, I'm not going to say he's corrupt because I don't know that.
No confidence vote for the sheriff.
Yes,
when was that?
That was, if my memory serves, its capabilities would have allowed the search and rescue team to, in my opinion, more quickly realize that she's not in the area, and maybe we need to start looking somewhere else and thinking about this differently, especially considering the blood drops.
Tell me a little bit about. I read about a no confidence vote for the sheriff.
Yes,
when was that?
That was, if my memory serves me correctly, it was in 2024, early 2024, I believe. And we took an anonymous no confidence vote or confidence vote, and it returned, except for one vote, it was unanimous no confidence in Sheriff Nanos. And that was done to kind of try and get the word out to the public, to the voting public in Pima County, that we've got some real issues in this department.
And yeah. I mean, so everyone except for one person in the union said no confidence.
Yes, sir. And my opinion is he probably didn't understand the vote and maybe made a mistake.
So what?
Oh, he's so happy with himself. I've never seen anything like this before. I've followed a lot of stories. I've never seen anything.
I mean, so
what he said?
That we've the word out to the public.
Look how he said. Look how he said it too.
To the voting public in Pima County, that we've got some real issues in this department.
And yeah. I mean, so everyone except for one person in the union said no confidence.
Yes, sir. And my opinion is he probably didn't understand the vote and maybe made a mistake.
So what are them? I mean, so why does it seem? So why don't they like him?
Well, I think former Chief Deputy Castigar kind of gave you some insight into the issues going on with Sheriff Nanos. He has an ego that's difficult to describe without sounding hyperbolic, and it drives a lot of his decision making. He's very retaliatory, and their favorite version of retaliation is through transfers. which has impacted nearly every unit in this department and decreased our overall readiness, in my opinion. Nearly every unit, the
This dude shows violence today.
experience and expertise that was there was transferred out for whatever reason, and there are real impacts to that.
I don't know.
It lowered morale.
I think that they're trying. I think that the union might want the sheriff out, which is a terrible, terrible position to be in when they're the ones in charge of this friggin' investigation. A house divided cannot stand. Abraham Lincoln, 1700 and something.
And so there was a lot of hope that in the election in 2024 that we would have a change at leadership. And when that didn't come to pass, very close, but when it didn't come to pass, that's when we started seeing these mass exodus of deputies and detectives.
How close was it?
471 votes.
So he lost by 400. He won by 471 votes.
Yeah, 471, 481, less than 500.
Okay.
It was so close it had to have a mandatory recall per the Arizona state law.
And you mentioned the transfers, and you said it was like discipline by transfer. Is that what happened to you?
Oh, yes, sir. So when I became...
Can you hear that? Here comes an axe. Here comes a grinder.
President in 2023 of our union, I initially decided, hey, let's take a morale poll. And so we did a morale poll. It came back pretty low, and it came back with some comments. And I thought that those comments would be beneficial to someone in a position of leadership. So I quietly compiled them on a professional letter and sent them to Sheriff Nanos, just put it in his basket, and he could have thrown it away. However, he took exception to that and responded by transferring me to a position to hurt my family. That was confirmed to me later by former Chief Deputy Castigar.
What do you mean to hurt your family?
So I was on midnights because I had small children and my wife worked during the day. They knew that, and about 7 months before, one of his chiefs threatened me to move me off midnights, and I explicitly reminded them that I'm on midnights for my family. But when I sent that letter, they responded by transferring me to a day shift so that I would not have that time with my children.
And did you get transferred to like an office job at that time, or?
Yes, sir.
So you don't even, how much experience do you have?
This will be my 26th year. I am the second most senior sergeant in the department.
But you're not out on the street?
No. He has me taking calls, phone reports. So if your garden hose gets stolen and you want to make a phone report, I'm handling those.
This is wild, man. Oh my God.
Currently.
Is that feel demeaning? I mean, with all the experience you have?
I'm the first and only sergeant in the history of our department ever working that position. It's normally reserved for injured deputies so they can still work while they're recovering from their injuries.
So I've covered, I've interviewed unions before, like with a lot of different things. And a lot of times the unions don't like the boss.
Yes, sir.
Or it's about pay.
Yes, sir.
So that's not uncommon, but is this different, do you think, than other places where, because the unions always seem to have some kind of issue. You know what I mean?
Yes, sir. Yeah, I agree. And
so this guy's head of the union, and he's currently serving under the sheriff, and he's taking calls about stolen garden hoses. Is that what is that what I'm picking up here? Oh man, he's just been waiting for this. If your garden hose gets stolen, he's your guy. Holy shit. The hell?
Sometimes you do hear.
So he still works for the department.
Of unions are always lobbying for increased pay.
Well, he's part of the union. I mean, like they can't just fire him now.
Pay, and certainly we lobby for that as well. But no one came to the Pima County Sheriff's.
I want to hear this again.
I am the for me to a day shift. Put it in his basket, and he could have thrown it away.
One more time.
When I became president in 2023 of our union, I initially decided, hey, let's take a morale poll. And so we did a morale poll. It came back pretty low, and it came back with some comments. And I thought that those comments would be beneficial to someone in a position of leadership. So I quietly compiled them on a professional letter and sent them to Sheriff Nanos, just put it in his basket, and he could have thrown it away. However, he took exception to that and responded by transferring me to a position to hurt my family. That was confirmed to me later by former Chief Deputy Castigar.
What do you mean to hurt your family?
So I was on midnights because I had small children and my wife worked during the day. They knew that. And about 7 months before, one of his chiefs threatened me to move me off midnights. And I explicitly reminded them that I'm on midnights for my family. But when I sent that letter, they responded by transferring me to a day shift so that I would not have that time with my children.
And did you get transferred to like an office job at that time, or?
Yes, sir.
So you don't even, how much experience do you have?
This will be my 26th year. I am the second most senior sergeant in the department.
The second most senior sergeant in the department.
But you're not out on the street.
No. He has me taking calls, phone reports. So if your garden hose gets stolen and you want to make a phone report, I'm handling those currently.
Is that feel demeaning? I mean, with all the experience you have?
I'm the first and only sergeant in the history of our department ever working that position. It's normally reserved for injured deputies. So
that's crazy. I mean, that is hog shit. It really is. I mean, just think about that. So you can't. Yeah. Okay. So he's critical of the sheriff. Fine. I understand. And so he takes a morale poll. It sucks. So instead of trying to fix things in the department, he transfers the second most senior sergeant to taking phone reports when this guy could be out helping.
they can still work while they're recovering from their injuries.
Dude, this is for a moment like this. Some people wait a lifetime for that once. Dude, look at his face.
So I've covered.
Dude, I can't believe it's happening to me. Holy shit.
You know, I've interviewed unions before.
For a moment like this.
Like with a lot of different things. And sometimes, a lot of times the unions don't like the boss.
Yes, sir.
You know, or it's about pay.
Yes, sir.
So that's not uncommon, but is this different?
I mean, can you imagine the conversation at the water cooler on Sunday?
Do you think than other places where, because the unions always seem to have some kind of issue, you know what I mean?
Yes, sir. Yeah, I agree. And oftentimes you do hear of unions, they're always lobbying for increased pay. And certainly we lobby for that as well. But no one came to the Pima County Sheriff's Department because they were going to get paid the most. However, you know, I have a theory that you can either pay your employees poorly or treat them poorly, but you can't do both and expect them to stick around. And that's where we're at. And our pushback against leadership inside this department, I believe, is a large reason why we've grown so quickly. Like I said, we started in 2023 from nothing, and we're already now representing nearly the entire commission side of the department.
The other thing I found covering sheriff's offices around the country is, you know, sheriffs have a lot of power. I mean, they're elected.
Certainly.
So, dude, sheriffs have the most power in the county. They are extremely powerful people. And I don't think people will understand how powerful sheriffs really are. I mean, they really have a ton of power. Case in point, you could legitimately F someone's life over. Not only did not, he can't fire him, but he could do him like that Milton guy on, or who's it on? You remember Office Space when they moved the stapler guy to the basement?
Sometimes, or many times, the deputies love the sheriff. It's like the opposite of what you're saying.
Yes.
And even though maybe they don't get paid as much as they should or as much as they want, like the sheriffs have their back.
Yes.
And it's different than working for a police department where there's a city council and they almost, you know, the sheriff really protects the deputies.
Yes, sir.
but I guess that's not the case here.
No, and it's pretty unusual.
But it is around here. I mean, I've interviewed some other sheriffs. It seems like other sheriffs are really liked.
Yes, sir. And the counties that are next to us, their sheriffs are very popular. Pinal County is a great example. They're directly to our north, and their deputies adore their sheriff, from my understanding. Ours is different because of how he runs the department.
Perhaps he'd be more open to talk. I don't think that Brian couldn't have gotten anything more out of this guy if he had him hogtied in a chair and was threatening to pull his teeth out.
And the retaliation that they do to the deputies that speak up, or even perceived to be against Nanos, or even he heard them say something against him. Because of that, we had a couple dozen of them protest with me against the sheriff during the last race. And I am unaware of any other instance where deputies protested against their sheriff for an election race. But it happened last time. But it wasn't without risk and fear. A lot of those guys did it while wearing masks, just to protect themselves from retaliation.
Yeah, that's unusual, huh?
It is. The situation inside this department, I would describe as very unusual.
So the whole world is watching now because of Nancy Guthrie. I mean,
look at that grin on his face.
Do you think all of these?
This is the craziest interview I've ever seen. I'm going to play it again tomorrow. I've never seen anything like this. They wore ski masks. Well, I'm a little surprised by that as well. But still.
These issues that you've because of Nancy Guthrie. I mean, do you think all of these issues that you've described have had an impact on the?
I have to process this a little bit.
Investigation.
100%. 100%. The experience level inside our CID, like I said, they're hardworking people, but everybody needs mentors.
Never seen anything like this in my life. Never.
You know, I cannot imagine starting as a new deputy or when I was in as a detective and not having mentors to help me out. You need that. They make you better.
This dude's going to be the janitor tomorrow.
Better. And when you have questions or when you have a high profile case, they're the ones that you want to go to. But from what I understand and what I'm being told, there's not a lot of that right now. Like I said, we're a very young department. 45% of our commissioned deputies and detectives have less than 5 years on. We're very young because of this turnover, and it's having a real impact. And when we need that expertise, that seniority the most during high profile incidents like this, they're simply not there. So I believe it is having an impact.
Couldn't the sheriff have said in the beginning, look, this is a complicated case? Even the FBI experts around the country have said, we've never even seen anything like this. I mean, they've never seen a kidnapping like this. Couldn't he have said, we're going to hand this over to the FBI because like this needs another level of expertise? I don't think that would have made him look bad. No, they could have still helped and assisted and been a part of it.
I agree. I think the right decision, and there's also different aspects of this as well.
When you take your look, if what this guy is saying is completely right, and this is all, I don't have any reason to disbelieve the guy, but if you're taking somebody away from their children, that's pretty messed up. I mean, that's pretty messed up. Well, maybe he could answer the phones at night.
By deciding early to turn this over to the FBI and us take a supportive role to them, I think it would have been the best decision, in my opinion, for the Guthrie family, but also for our detectives and Pima County citizens. Like, from what I understand, the entirety of CID is being tasked with helping on this case, all of them. They still have other cases that aren't being worked as well as they could be. And the bad guys aren't giving us a break because we're working this case, hoping to find Nancy. The calls and the crimes are still coming in. They're still happening. So these cases are getting put on the back burner from what they otherwise would be if this was turned over to the FBI, who could use their massive assets, resources, and personnel to work it with us in an assisting role. And then we could also then go back to a normal order of business to some extent and work some of these other cases that are happening in Pima County.
Yeah, that makes sense. Is there anything else I'm leaving out that you think is important that people should know? I mean, because again, you're in a unique role.
Yeah, one time I told the sheriff that he can't park in the handicap zone, and the next day I was cleaning the shitter.
Where you can speak. Right. And we have a hard time, getting information now.
Yes.
Because people will get in trouble.
Yes, and that fear is real. The fear is very real because they know what would happen. Again, I just want to reiterate that our detectives, they are busting their butt to try and solve this case and find Nancy and try and bring her home, hopefully safe to her family. They're putting.
Well, he can't. The sheriff can't do anything to him now. It's like when Bob Lazar told everybody that he worked at S4 and he went national. He's all, if they off me, then, I'm going to be. They're like, the government can't kill me now because everybody knows.
In tons of hours and burning the candle at both ends. And so I just really like to take the opportunity to thank them for all their hard work. They're great guys. And we'd like to just convey to everybody that please don't hold us accountable for some of the decisions made.
What do you mean? Is there anything else, Brian? I mean, he took you through every single aspect of his life.
By our leaders, we're trying.
Great. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Appreciate
Nice
your
to meet
time
you.
very much.
Thank you.
I really appreciate Sergeant Cross for talking with me. And I'm going to stay in touch with him. And it's interesting kind of getting the backstory.
I'm going to stay in touch with him. I bet you are.
Of what's been going on, according to him, at the sheriff's office. Because, I haven't covered like Pima County before. So I just kind of came in to cover Nancy Guthrie. And it's interesting how it's kind of opened the door and opened like a window into a look of what has been happening with the Pima County Sheriff's Office, what sounds like for years, at least according to many of the people who
when he said that this Nancy Guthrie case has shined light on us, that guy's smile went from a smirk or went from a Mona Lisa to the biggest cheese smile that you've ever seen in your life. He's like, yeah, told you. Told you, my confidence poll.
Talking to. So again, appreciate Sergeant Cross for talking with me. I'm going to stay obviously on the story. I'm not going anywhere. I'm hoping that things are starting to move. And there have been times since I've been here.
He had to go back to crisscross applesauce.
For the last 2 weeks that I felt like we were at a standstill. And there have been times that I felt like things were starting to move around. And I'm getting that feeling now that we may be getting closer to a resolution here. And the reason I say that is because of the SWAT raids. And again, the one on Friday night, there was a federal search warrant signed by a federal judge. They don't just sign those things without some kind of meat on the bones. So the fact that happened, and granted, they could clear all those people. They could clear that guy. I don't know. That it seems like they cleared the guy near the Mexico border the other night, Carlos. So we'll see. But the totality of everything, that DNA coming in from inside Nancy's house and then DNA from the glove, and that's just what we know about. I can promise you there's probably so much that we don't know about that the FBI has and that the Pima County Sheriff's Office has. So my hope is that over the next couple of days, we're really going to see some movement here. And God, it would be amazing if Nancy Guthrie came home alive. And my heart goes out to her family, to Savannah Guthrie, and I'll just keep covering it. So appreciate you guys for following me, for subscribing, and I'll talk to you guys later.
Wow. That was crazy. I mean, that's terrible. Well, yeah, I don't think the sheriff's going anywhere. I really, really don't. And I don't think he's on his way out. I don't think he'll I don't think he would give up. Personally, that's just what I think, but maybe. That's so great. I didn't see that coming either. That was insane. I mean, I've never seen anything quite like that. He works for the sheriff is his boss, and he's airing him. Dude, he's on national TV. He's playing the sheriff out in front of everybody. Can you imagine? Nanos's ears are probably steaming because he was pissed when people were calling him Barney Fife. Remember that? No, I don't think he's going to go anywhere. I don't think. Not if he has the ego that people say that. I don't know if he does or not, but I'm just saying it's like, holy shit. I've never seen anything quite like that. It was at a basketball game, yeah. That's right. He's the head of the union. There's really nothing. Well, I mean, what more is he going to do to him? He's already got him at a desk job. The second most senior sergeant taking phone reports. I mean, they are airing him out everywhere. It's incredible. It's absolutely incredible. All right, I'm out of here, you guys. I appreciate you being here. I'll be back tomorrow. I got to revisit that. That was one of the craziest things. I don't know, man. I've never seen anything quite like it. Thank you guys for being here. And you think so? Who are you talking about? The guy that just gave that interview? I've never seen anything quite like it. Never seen anything like it. No, I don't think so. I don't think he could take his pension, and he's not the only one that's like leveling these complaints. So anyway, all right, guys. Well, I appreciate you being here. I will catch you guys tomorrow. Hey, what the hell just happened? Bring Nancy home. That's really what it's all about, but still. And hopefully they find her. And then after all that, they can sort their. I don't know. There seems to just be a lot of malevolence in that department. Sucks. I honestly just wish that wasn't going on. But anyway, all right. Enough from me. Oh, man. What the hell just happened? Monday, weird enough.